So knowledge and conversation is a phrase for this direct contact with the deeper intelligence, or what we're calling the higher self. There's many examples of this throughout history, moments of mystic revelation where specific truths are revealed to the disciple or the aspirant, either through a voice, an inner voice, or the appearance of an actual being, for example, or a sequence of visionary events or unfoldings. Classic examples of knowledge and conversation are, for example, if anyone's ever read the Bhagavad Gita, there's a main character named Arjuna, and he's about to have to go to war with his former teachers and family members, and he's very conflicted about this battle that is now about to ensue. And out of this conflict and despair, a deity or higher being appears to him named Krishna, and the dialogue that they have is the entirety of the Bhagavad Gita. So this is a knowledge and conversation moment. Truths about the nature of reality and Arjuna's role in this life, and particularly in the war that he's in, are revealed to him. The level of teachings in this particular discourse, and if any of you haven't read the Bhagavad Gita, I highly recommend it. It's not very long. I think it's like 700 lines of prose. So if you see a book and it's a Bhagavad Gita book and it's very large or long, it's because the commentary on it is very long, but the thing itself is not very long. And basically the essence of the message that Krishna gives to Arjuna is that Krishna himself is in the heart of all beings. He presents himself as an omnipotent deity. And my interpretation, or how this is interpreted by uh, non-Hindus, for example, or by Hindus, they could also have this take on it, is that Krishna is the higher self of Arjuna. Krishna is the holy guardian angel, the inner master, the inner guru, the inner teacher of Arjuna. But also, since this is referring to like a Jesus Christ or a Buddha level deity or being, Krishna presents himself to Arjuna as the inner master of all beings in the whole universe. So whether that's actually the case, I'm not sure. But but the dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna is a perfect example of knowledge and conversation. The Probably the person who is most known for this term knowledge and conversation is a 20th century occultist named Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley was a British aristocrat, came from a wealthy family, and he was able to study all of the philosophical and esoteric classics. So a lot of the early translations of the Hindu and Buddhist texts by Max Mueller and all kinds of Sanskrit experts. Crowley himself was one of the first to write a commentary on the four foundations of mindfulness discourse of Buddhism. He was one of the first Westerners to write a translation of the Tao Te Ching and many Eastern, very spiritual and important Eastern texts. Crowley himself has an interesting story. He's a very controversial figure. Some people think that he sacrificed children, for example, which I don't think he did. But I guess back in at the period of time when he was writing his magical texts and discourses, censorship was very real, and the more fictionalized you can make some of your work, the easier it was to get into the hands of the populace. So Crowley, I believe in the early 1900s, he has an experience in Cairo in Egypt where a spiritual text was transmitted to him. And this became the basis for a new religion that he founded, or um, system of magical practice that he founded. And this text was called the Book of the Law. So you see a consistent theme here with spiritual figures or spiritual explorers. There tends to be, or it's often the case that at one point they have a contact with divinity, with a manifestation of divinity, and a specific message is given to them, and that message is then transmitted to humanity. So another example of that is Moses on Mount Sinai. He sees a burning bush and hears the voice of God, and the Ten Commandments, he receives them. And this becomes a teaching and a body of knowledge that is transmitted to other people. A more modern example of knowledge and conversation that I've heard of, Robert Bruce, the author of Astral Dynamics, a very popular book in the field of OBE. When he was beginning to explore the energy body, he just felt a very strong inclination to begin to look at the nature of the energy body and what it actually is through astral vision. So he'd go out of body and he'd find a person or look at his own physical body laying there and see deeper with his astral vision into the nature of the chakras and the energy channels. So as a part of this process, he began to observe the flows of energy in the physical and etheric body. And so he began to do different Qigong practices and energy work practices. At some point, he claims, he said that this is what happened. He was sitting in a chair in his living room, and a burning bush appeared in his living room. I think he was having an out-of-body experience at this point. But I'd have to go back and check his story on that. But a burning bush appears. Out of this burning bush comes a voice, and then it transforms into a very famous spiritual teacher named Satya Sai Baba. Robert Bruce had no relationship with Sai Baba, no connection with him. He wasn't a practitioner of Indian yoga, but this master he'd seen pictures of randomly just appears and gives him instruction on moving energy through the etheric, or through the energy and physical bodies. And the information that was transmitted to him that night became the basis for his specific system of energy work that he teaches to support and power up out-of-body experiences, and also to raise the Kundalini energy of the body. So that knowledge appeared through this manifestation of the deeper nature in the form of this particular spiritual master. So was it actually Sai Baba that came to the room and gave Robert Bruce this discourse that later became a set of teachings that tens of thousands of people all over the world, hundreds maybe of thousands of people all over the world started using? I ultimately don't know, right? Robert Bruce sees it as the manifestation of his higher self, and he's had many direct experiences with this, particularly instances where his life was saved by this hidden hand, this invisible force, this guiding principle. So this is Crowley's quote on knowledge and conversation. and the nature of the holy guardian angel. There is a single main definition of the object of all magical ritual. It is the uniting of the microcosm with the macrocosm. The supreme and complete ritual is therefore the invocation of the holy guardian angel, or in the language of mysticism, union with God. All other magical rituals are particular cases of this general principle. Magic in Theory and Practice, Chapter 1. Again, the angel is in truth the logos, or articulate expression of the whole being of the adept, so that as he increases in the perfect understanding of his name, he approaches a solution of the ultimate problem, who he himself truly is. The angel is the spiritual son of the soul of the adept. The angel is the true self of his subconscious self, the hidden life of his physical life. And okay. So in the Western magic tradition, there is a specific rite, essentially, a specific practice for realizing and coming into contact with the higher self, the holy guardian angel. Crowley initially attempted this rite, but I'm not sure if he ever completed it. It was based on a text from, I think, either a 12th or a 14th century Kabbalist named Abraham von Worms, and the book is called Abramelin. So this particular text details a several month-long process of prayer and supplication to God in order to experience the mystical union and receive the appearance, the manifestation of the holy guardian angel. Unfortunately, the first translation of this text was done by MacGregor Mathers, who was a colleague of Crowley in a magical and secret society of the 20th century known as the Golden Dawn. And Mathers' translation of this into English was based on a French translation, which was inaccurate and faulty. And that was not determined until very recently, when a German copy of this original Abramelin text was discovered and translated into English. So the copy that Aleister Crowley used, the version that Crowley used, and that like thousands and thousands and thousands of people over the last 100 years, the version that they used for this particular Holy Guardian Angel retreat was full of translation errors, and still people got results, but the main translation error was that, for example, the length of the retreat, according to Crowley, based on Mathers' translation, is only 6 months. So you have to leave the world for 6 months and pray in the morning. You pray like 3 to 7 hours a day. You're just praying to God to receive wisdom and the holy guardian angel. And it's very general in the sense that there's not a specific prayer that you're given. Abraham von Worms in the Abramelin text says you need to know how to pray and what prayer specifically looks like for you and your connection with God. The more recently translated German, from the German manuscript of this text, indicates that the retreat is actually not 6 months, but 18 months. So the time is way off. And but this is an example of the lengths that people in the ancient world were willing to go to experience gnosis and mystical union. And the objective of the Abramelin operation and both of Crowley's attempt of it and of others is to have the holy guardian angel visibly, audibly, to actually materially appear to the aspirant, to the magician. So Crowley claims to not have accomplished this, at least as stated in the Abramelin text. In the text, it states very clearly that the angel is to visibly appear to the magician. And I think that for some people, that's just not ever going to be the case. Some of us that are not clairvoyantly inclined may not have an apparition actually appear in the room and begin speaking to us. I guess some people would disagree with me on that, but I think if it's possible that that just may not be something that some people are designed or configured for. So there's different ways of looking at this holy guardian angel concept, this higher self. Obviously, what I just described, this being appearing before you and giving you a teaching and revealing the truth of your life, that's a very climactic event. So what is being presented in the Abramelin operation, in the Holy Guardian Angel work, as Crowley presents it, is definitely a climactic event. For example, when he was in Cairo and he received the Book of the Law, that was a climactic event for him. I think he just spontaneously began writing this text after hearing the voice of his holy guardian angel audibly, and that became the basis for Thelema, his entire system of magic, and basically another religion that he began. Climactic event happened at a specific point in time, right? Now there are other ways of looking at this higher self, holy guardian angel phenomena. The other way is to see this as a continuously unfolding relationship, not as a particular climactic event. And if that event didn't happen, you failed to attain the knowledge and conversation. I think that approach, I mean, imagine you rearrange your whole life and you set everything aside to do this 6-month operation, this 6-month retreat. And at the end of it, it all comes down to this one moment in your sanctuary where you do your final prayer, supplication, and offering, and then this being is supposed to appear, basically, or some voice is supposed to be audibly heard. And if that doesn't happen, you would inevitably feel that you failed the operation. And also imagine you did the real original version is 18 months. You prayed in a hole for 18 months and nothing happens, right? Or at least nothing climactic happens. And that has been the case for a lot of people. I mean, many magicians, male, female, all kinds of people have tried this operation as it was indicated in the text, and it didn't necessarily turn out the way that it was expected. And that's probably for, good reason. So a way to look at this as well with the relationship aspect or relationship view on this is that communication is always occurring. What's an example?